This homepage had a really clear headline, but not a clear answer to what the company actually does. In this Clarity Jam, we dig into how Demand Genius helps the B2B SaaS teams finally connect content to revenue and why that wasn't coming through above the fold. You'll see how tightening the H1, sharpening the use cases, and reordering the page to follow the same past framework can turn an interesting idea into I need this demo. Let's get into it.
Hey Jessica, thank you for having me. So yeah, Tom Rudnai, CEO and founder of Demand Genius. We help demand gen marketers connect content to revenue. So what we always talk about it as like escaping from the content treadmill. So most marketing teams kind of caught in this constant struggle to produce more and more output in terms of content. We help them hone in on what's actually having an impact to what they care about, which is pipeline revenue.
Yeah, I love it. So that's such an important problem and something that I personally also have faced myself a time or many. Question for you is how did you come up with the idea for and start why Demand Genius?
Yeah, I mean, you always want to say, or I always want to claim that there's like a really smart story that we knew exactly what we were doing from day one. We kind of bumbled our way along to it a little bit, is the honest truth. My background was in the B2C media industry, so we were helping them with what we call like dynamic paywalls. So on Forbes, Financial Times, large media companies, helping them be really smart with where they cut people off on content in order to maximize their chance of driving the commercial outcome they want, which in there is an on-page subscription. Um, we just noticed in doing that, there's a huge amount of opportunity to use B2B content in a more intelligent way to solve the problems that we have in our own world around go-to-market efficiency. At the end of the day, content gives you a one-to-many way to influence people that leads to a much more efficient go-to-market than relying on sales reps. So that's where we're hoping to help, or where we are helping B2B marketers be more intelligent with how they use content to do that.
Yeah, that's sort of a smart approach. What are some of the things that you've learned in your background from working with B2C media that is like super, super relevant for B2B teams?
Um, I think just the extent of what you can do with content. I think that I'm always amazed. I hear a lot of people in B2B talk about constraints that exist from a technical perspective that simply aren't true, right? Whether it's from an attribution perspective, we can't possibly tell the impact that a piece of content has on our bottom line. Well, that's not true, right? You can get great directional insight on that. You're never going to get attribution perfect in a B2B complex sales environment, but we can largely tell you that information. The same thing about like content gating, right? We have this sense that a gating decision has to be binary. For a piece of content, we do or don't gate that content. Again, simply not true. We can make real-time decisions when the user is loading the page based on where they are in the funnel or in their sales journey as to what we should do for this user. Should we or shouldn't we put up a content gate? What's going to help us progress the relationship best? So I think there are certain like what are seen as truisms in the B2B content space that just result from the fact that we've not kind of adapted technologies that are pretty commonplace elsewhere to those use cases.
Got it. So that's what demand gen really does is basically helps with really smart content gating as well as really smart attribution.
Yeah, exactly. Understand the content that you have on the site, the opportunities that exist within it, the impact that it's having, and then feed all of that into your distribution strategy, whether that is content gating or it's what reps are sharing or what you're advertising to people in different stages of the pipeline.
Yeah, and who is specifically your kind of ideal buyer? Like, who is the decision maker to decide whether or not they're going to actually use and buy Demand Genius?
Yeah, it's kind of two segments. One thing that we're exploring and building out at the moment is a channel with marketing and particularly content
Mhm.
agencies. Every challenge that an in-house content marketer faces, an agency faces, and double, right? Because they're also disconnected from the data that they need to show impact. So that's one that's emerging. But generally speaking, it's either like a head of marketing at a SaaS company or it's a head of content.
Perfect. So tell me a little bit about kind of your initial approach to the homepage.
Yeah, so I mean, I think I said before, we're a relatively young company. So we've been going 18 months or so now. So I think initially we viewed our website as a place for experimentation with our messaging, right?
Mhm.
We are just now reaching the point where we understand who we are, we understand the problems that we solve and who we solve them for, and we're kind of now looking to get it set up so that now the messaging is as we need it to be so that we can scale. But so it was something that we put together in as flexible way as possible. We wanted to make it easy for people to go in deep on the product because we hadn't nailed down
Mhm.
exactly how to communicate our value prop really concisely. We wanted to have videos there and have more product details so that people who are arriving at us kind of bottom of funnel, let's say solution ready, could quickly understand the solution because we knew we weren't going to be able to do the job of really concisely, efficiently taking people from problem awareness all the way through, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing that stands out to me is I like that you have a very clear book a demo. It's purple. You have it in your navigation menu. You also have it within your hero section alongside the video that kind of tells you what it does. Kudos there. One thing that immediately stands out to me as well is connect content to revenue as your main H1. So that's specific in some regards because it's telling you, oh, you can actually tie content to revenue. My question to you is from hearing this page, are you my immediate question, and I'm sure the immediate question of anyone on this page is this a service company? Is this a software play? Is this some sort of AI thing? What is it? Can you be a little bit more clear about not only that it's a platform, but also, you're missing some of that clarity around like, this could literally be an H1 that could be on a content agency's website, or it could be on a content SaaS play, or it could be in some of the other different places.
Yeah, it makes sense. We are a SaaS player, but yeah, that's not clear. I guess the book a demo indicates that, but
Yeah, I would say, can you get a little bit clearer from you've had these conversations with customers already? What are some of the things that they tell you once they started using Demand Genius?
I think the thing that always comes back in terms of feedback is the how easy we make it to go very deep in the way that you look at your content strategy, whether that's via our AI audit tool, being able to run like custom prompts that literally you can run against every single URL on your site and kind of tailor that to any use case that you have in terms of trying to assess GEO, tone of voice, but then also how that feeds into content performance, which people think of this as this like big messy problem to solve. Actually, it's an AI tool and then 10 minutes of integration work and you're away. So it's the ease with which we make complex things possible.
Got it. And that's all basically tied back to you make a process that used to be days for some of these companies, turn that into like 15 minutes of work, go deep into content performance.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. If that's actually the use case that all of your customers are saying, I would spell that out way clearer within your H1 as well as within that description. Because right now, like step off the content treadmill and like using AI is pretty generic. And it's basically
Yeah.
just further reinforcing, are you a content agency? Are you a content platform? And it doesn't really address at all the thing about content performance and the ease of use that you just said.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. Obviously, if you let somebody like watch the video and then they also see the bucket demo, that becomes a little bit more sense, but you're not making it easy for someone to immediately see within the 3 seconds that they're first on your page what you do and why they should care about it.
Yeah, well, and that's the change that we know we need to make in the next couple of months to get ourselves set. Is it needs to be a lot easier to get to the like we need to communicate the core value a lot quicker.
Totally. And then if you want to scroll down,
Sure.
so the next thing I see basically two options when you can toggle between content strategy and they can also as well as content distribution. Are these four key points, these two key points with 2 points decided for them, kind of the main use cases of your platform, or walk me through a little bit about what this section should be doing?
Yeah, and I think it's exposing there's not as much thought put into it as there should be for what is our homepage. But yeah, they're the two main use cases. Again, I wanted it to be very simple to communicate the kind of bottom of funnel information that some people would want early on. So I was trying to be this is my attempt to be quite transparent with the core benefits that you're going to get, right? You're going to get a better content strategy and you're going to be able to feed that into your distribution.
Yeah, got it. I would recommend being, again, same point as the H1, be a lot more specific. I like that you have screenshots. That's already kind of helping you out, but be a lot more specific on the like key 3 to 6 biggest use cases of your platform and spell that out here. Because again, content strategy and content distribution, you're kind of feeding to that same problem, which is this an agency or is this a platform?
Yeah, okay, yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. And then learn more as a CTA is like the laziest CTA out there. Learn more about what? So if you're gonna have a CTA in there, which I don't even think you need, make sure that goes back to book a demo, or has something that's a little bit more clear or a case study or something like that.
Question on that. So typically what and this is a little bit like best practice, was basically make sure that anywhere you are on the page, there's a CTA that you can quite easily access. So we were kind of trying to balance that, which I read was a best practice, with not just kind of harassing people to book a demo almost. Are there other things that you work well with, or how would you normally balance that?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's so many different ways you can go about it. One of the slickest ways, if you don't want to have a CTA at every section, is to just literally make sure that your like navigation menu is kind of floating at the very top. So you always kind of see book a demo where it is right there. That is a slick way to go about it. There's so many other things you can do. If you want to have something in each section, definitely a big fan of what is your primary CTA on your homepage. In this case, book a demo. Make sure that is the thing that you're referencing back over and over and over again. So you're not creating analysis paralysis. If people aren't ready to book a demo, usually I must always tell people, okay, do you have a lead magnet, or in your case, a content gate, or do you have like a newsletter or something like that, where that could be a really strong sub CTA. Sometimes it also could be literal case studies. So if you don't necessarily want to if you want to have something like that, it could be a case study, it could be a link to a gated case study, it could be a link to just read a case study on your website, it could be a newsletter, it could be videos, whatever that is, as whatever that sub CTA is. But general thing, your homepage should be making it so incredibly clear what your platform does, who it's for, and make it really, really obvious for them to book it in if they're ready.
Sure, makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah. And then if you want to scroll down to who is Demand Genius for, so
Yeah,
a couple of things that come up. You see content teams, you also see marketing teams. I would say, can you be way more specific about kind of the role of the person or the role of the team that actually benefits from Demand Genius? Ideally, who is kind of the champion if this is a buying committee decision versus the person who can, basically sign the check and greenlight this investment. And 2, I know these images are, I think it looks like an AI generated avatars. Is there, instead of that, is there a way that you can basically put case studies right there? Or can you put a testimonial from 2 of your customers? Maybe even 3 customers, so you can fall by the rule of 3, which is, I always tell people that. Do you have a couple of examples of testimonials that you can use here that just are going to add a lot of social proof and give you like the benefit of the doubt and be way more specific and way more compelling?
Yeah, and I think so that's one of the things that's changed for us as a business since we made this, right? We made this around when we launched. We didn't quite have social proof yet, so I tried to have a bit of fun with it by just calling out that that's what this is. Now we're at a place where we can, and so that's one of the things that we need to shift when we relaunch the site in a couple of months.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have the right design already that you can utilize that here, but I would just say, instead of having those AI images, instead to swap them out for an actual photo, ideally a video too, of 2 of your flagship customers that like are seeing a ton of results there. And then another thing I would just mention is, instead of get started, change that CTA language to book a demo, so it just stays consistent. And the reason why it's consistent that way is you're just, every time you say different words, you're creating additional like micro friction to actually book a demo.
Yeah, okay, so it makes it really clear to the user at all points what the next action to take is.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. And then scroll down to the next section, which is want to learn more. Walk me through a little bit about problem, and then I see 2 different solutions and I see 1 problem. but they don't really link me anywhere.
Yeah, so what I tried to do with the site, which I think I like conceptually, is have a section that is problem, right? So I think
Mhm.
most sites don't do that particularly, like one that called out in depth what the problem is that we solve and why it's important at a kind of strategic level for our clients to solve. So that's what that links out to. And then we split out the solution in the same way as we have here for the two different key buyers, not going as far for you, like as you indicate, of like indicating who that, but like it should be head of content, head of marketing, rather than a content marketer or a marketer. But that was the idea.
Got it. I think your instincts are absolutely spot on. That whole idea of what I would actually call it pass, problem, solution, um, is problem, agitate, solution is actually really, 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 really effective. My thing to you is I'm not necessarily sure if this is the right place on the page. So if you want to scroll back up to like right below the hero section.
Yeah.
Okay. So where you have right now content strategy and content distribution, I would, in my position, would nuke that entire section, and or just seriously rewrite it, and instead lead at the, right after the H1 where you're talking about what you do and making it super clear. That's where you should kind of agitate and talk about the problem that you solve. So spell out very clearly in an H2 what is the problem you solve, with with like a paragraph or two that really gets down to the root of what is the main things that demanding this does. Is it kind of content gating, content attribution, going deep? Really spell out that problem hardcore. Then once you've done that, now you go introduce the solution in the next section, in the next block of text is where you introduce the solution. So right above where it says, right above the who is it for. So
Yeah.
right after that, right before that section, you then introduce the solution again. And that's where you have your use cases, the 3 to 5 use cases that I shared earlier on. That's where you should put that in there. Continue to kind of agitate that. Then you go back into the who's demanding this for, the section you have right now, make those changes. That's how you can kind of spell out the problems and solutions way clearer than what I think you have right now.
Okay, and would you ditch the concept of having like an entire page of the website dedicated to the problem?
I think you could still have a page to it. However, I do think that having that be right on your homepage is going to do numbers for conversions.
Okay, yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. So like again, what you have there makes a ton of sense, but I would definitely say just reformat it and you'll make it so it ends up being your H1, your problem, the solution with the use case, solution, use cases, who is demanding this for, and now we are back on to I would say a new section that would be basically what I'd call a final book a demo CTA, where it's oftentimes it's something like ready to dive deep into content performance, book a demo, and then you have your section on resource, and then you have your resource center right below it.
Yeah, okay. What would you have? What are there things that you found work best in this hero? So one thing I've looked at is we can potentially do an interactive demo, and would that make sense either to do in that bottom section that you mentioned, or in the hero, or is a video good?
Yeah, I love interactive demos. I think they work really well. Whether you use the video you have right now or you replace that with an interactive demo, either one can work really well. If you have a video and you have yourself talking about it, that's one of the biggest advantages that earlier to mid-stage companies have, which is, hey, you can actually be on the record. You can be the face of the company. That builds trust. Lean into that. I tell that to pretty much every early stage founder out there is like, if you don't mind being the face, that is your unfair advantage that like big enterprise companies aren't going to do that, but you can, and that builds trust way faster. Then if you want to have your interactive demo be kind of in the very beginning of that solutions block, that's another place where it can work really, really, really well.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Because this is like a video that I created on a tool, like it's a walkthrough video, but it actually makes sense to use the advantage that I can be there talking through the platform rather than using the kind of corporate video style.
Absolutely. Like it can literally be as simple. I've literally seen like simple Loom videos of the founder walking through their platform do money numbers when it comes to converting people into book a demo from basically from cold or warm compared to really overly polished videos for an early stage company.
Nice. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that if I said to you, budget is no object, and I want to make this homepage as awesome as it can possibly be, are there any other things you've seen people do that I should do?
Yeah, I think an interactive demo, you already kind of nailed it. If you have a way to make that interactive demo smart, put that in the new solution block. So you have your H1, then you have your problem, then you have the new solution block. In that solution block, when you first introduce, again, what demand genius does, then have your interactive demo there. From there, showcase all of the use cases. They're kind of the 3 to 5 main use cases that your product solves. Then you go back into the next section, which is who is demand genius for, and that's where you have your kind of content teams, marketing teams thing. Spell that out. That's a really, really slick way to have a homepage that's going to convert a lot more people.
Awesome. Thank you.
Awesome. Do you want to stop sharing your screen?
Yeah, of course.
Is there anything else before we wrap?
No, I think that's helpful. Just thank you. It's that this has been very, very well timed because, as I say, we've kind of been in that early learning, talking to customers. So I kind of got this up 6 months ago without really knowing what should be there and not wanting to spend ages on it for that reason. Now we're like, okay, we've learned some stuff. Now we're kind of ready to start scaling a bit more. I need to make this better. I need to get my AI guys off there.
Yeah, you literally do it the exact right way, which is don't spend a whole bunch of time on your website until you have some early traction. And then once you actually kind of have those early customers, that's when you can really start to take a homepage that was, just out there and really specify that. So my main piece of feedback to you would be just get way clear that this is, a content attribution platform, and so you kind of lose the feel that it could actually be, is this a content agency or is this a SaaS?
Yeah, super helpful. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for coming on to Clarity Jams.
No worries. Thanks for having me.